Do you have some secrets that you didn't want to talk about? Well, I certainly do. There's something I've rarely told anyone because honestly, I was, and even now, I'm still ashamed of it. It felt like I was admitting failure. Money is a big topic that most of us avoid talking about, right? Unless we're millionaires or something like that. But I'm ready to confess that I filed for bankruptcy. And for years, I carried that like a secret shame. Evidence that I couldn't handle my life, that I was somehow fundamentally flawed, that I'd failed at one of the most basic adult responsibilities. Yeah. Hi, I'm Kate, and today I'm talking about it because I think there are other people in the same boat, and my story might help someone who's out there drowning in debt right now, feeling alone, feeling like bankruptcy is this shameful last resort. Only irresponsible consider it, right? So this is one of the most personal videos I've ever made. But I'm ready. So I'm going to talk about money, bankruptcy, and why shame kept me trapped longer than I needed to be. Money has always been my struggle. I'll be completely honest. It's been one of the most consistent problems of my entire life, and I still don't really have a handle on it. But it started early, not because my family was desperately poor. We were poor, but I was never taught how to think about money realistically. When I was growing up, the idea of saving money or budgeting or paying bills strategically, none of that was instilled in me. Saving money wasn't a habit. Budgeting, no, that wasn't discussed. Paying bills on time, I just assumed that my parents were doing that. I never paid attention. It was just something that somehow happened. So when I became an adult and started earning my own paychecks, I really didn't have any absolute realistic concept of how money worked or how fragile financial stability might be, how much I'd need for bills, for rent, for unexpected expenses, for emergencies. When I started working, the amount I received was kind of an illusion. It was a dream, you know. I'm almost embarrassed to admit that every time I got a paycheck, it was never very large. I didn't make a lot of money, but I felt rich. Crazy, yeah? I felt when I got that paycheck, I could go out and buy whatever I wanted. Like this amount in my hand on my paycheck was set. It never, and I mean never, entered my mind to put some of that aside for a rainy day, or for emergencies, or for next month's rent, or bills. I had no concept of future planning with money. I lived entirely in the present moment, and that can be good about a lot of things. But with money, that present moment always felt abundant because I had cash right now. When I look back, now I can see, looking back, how very unrealistic I was. But at the time, it felt very normal to me. And then it all fell apart little by little. You can probably guess what happened, right? Credit cards got maxed out, bills piled up, late fees accumulated, interest charges snowballed. And suddenly, I wasn't just living paycheck to paycheck. I was drowning. Every month I'd juggle, which bill can I pay? Which can I let slide? I'd make minimum payments on credit cards. Some of them I would just ignore completely. I'd avoid phone calls from creditors. And the stress, well, it was overwhelming. It was the kind that keeps you up at night. The kind that makes your stomach drop every time you go out to the mailbox to get the mail, or now check your email. I knew things were bad, but I couldn't see a way forward. Every path seemed blocked. Every option felt impossible. I didn't know anyone who had ever filed for bankruptcy. Not a single person in my life had ever told me about doing it. Maybe they had, but I just don't know. But I did know that it existed as an option. And I had this deeply ingrained belief that it was shameful, that it was irresponsible, something only irresponsible people did, that it was proof you'd failed at being an adult. It felt like admitting to the world, guess what, world? I can't handle my life. I'm bad with money. I'm a big failure. But I also reached a point where bankruptcy seemed like the only route I could take. I wasn't going to magically start to earn enough money to pay for everything, pay it all off. I wasn't going to suddenly become a financial genius who could negotiate my way out. The hole I was in was too deep. So I did this thing that terrified me, and I filed for bankruptcy. But you know what? I didn't feel relief right away. I just felt embarrassed. For years afterward even. I wouldn't tell anyone what I'd done. I'd felt like this was a dark secret, the thing that proved something was really, really wrong with me. I judged myself harshly for it. I felt like I'd failed some crucial life test that everybody else seemed to be passing without any problem. And our culture reinforces that, doesn't it? We talk about bankruptcy like it's a moral failure, not like we've done it or anything. Like people who file are just lazy or don't know how to get along in life. We don't talk about the circumstances that led people there. We don't talk about how our economic system is designed in ways that make it incredibly easy to fall into debt and incredibly hard to climb out. We just judge and make people feel like they should suffer in silence. But looking back now with decades of distance, I can see something that I couldn't see then. Filing for bankruptcy actually meant that I'd finally acknowledged reality. It was the first time I'd stopped pretending I could fix everything by trying harder or being more disciplined or finding some way out. It was the first time I accepted that my relationship with money wasn't just about numbers. It was about my own beliefs, my habits, my lack of education that started long before adulthood. Bankruptcy wasn't a magic solution. It didn't suddenly make me good with money. I'm still not good with money. But it did give me some space, some breathing room. It was a reset that allowed me to rebuild without the constant pressure of drowning in debt. Here's what I wish someone had told me way back then. Filing for bankruptcy doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you're a complete failure. It means you had gotten yourself into an impossible situation and you took the available legal route to get a fresh start. That's it. The bankruptcy system exists because our society recognizes that sometimes people need a reset. That debt can be so overwhelming that there's no reasonable path forward without some kind of intervention. It's not a moral judgment. It's a practical solution to a financial problem. Looking back now, I can see that my struggles weren't really a personal failure. They were about never having learned how to manage money. Nobody had sat me down and explained how to budget. Nobody taught me anything about emergency funds or the danger of credit card interest. I was sent into the adult world with zero financial literacy. And I made all the same predictable mistakes that a lot of people make. That doesn't excuse anything. I made choices, but those choices were made without the knowledge or framework I needed. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. Raised without financial education, then judged for not magically knowing things they were never taught. But there are a lot of people who were taught and they're still in the same boat. Overwhelming debt. So why am I finally talking about this? Well, I think there are people watching this video right now who are there where I was, drowning in debt, seeing no way out, considering bankruptcy, but feeling ashamed to even think about it. And I want you to know, you're not alone. You're not a failure. And bankruptcy might actually be the responsible choice in your situation. Sometimes it might seem crazy, but sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit the path you're on isn't working and choosing a different path. Yeah, it has consequences. Yeah, it affects your credit score. Yeah, it's not a decision to make lightly, but it's also a legal right. It's a fresh start. It's a way to stop the bleeding and begin rebuilding. Did filing for bankruptcy solve all my problems? No, not at all. I still had to try to develop healthier financial habits. I still had to face the reality that I needed to change my relationship with money. And I still have a problem with money, but at least I had some breathing room at that point. It stopped the collection calls. It lifted the crushing weight of impossible debt. It let me start over. So my message to you is, if you're struggling with debt right now and considering bankruptcy, don't let shame stop you from exploring it as an option. Talk to a bankruptcy attorney or do some online research. Understand what it actually means. Make an informed decision based on your real situation, not on internalized shame about it, what it supposedly says about you as a person. And if you've already filed for bankruptcy and carry that shame inside that I held inside for so long, let it go. You made the best decision you could with the information and the resources you had. That's all any of us can do. So this wasn't easy for me to share, but I hope it helps someone. If it resonated with you, please leave a comment, even just to say, yeah, me too. Sometimes knowing you're not alone can make all the difference. Just know that you're not a failure. You're someone who's learning how to get along in the world, just like the rest of us. So bye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.